She thought I would collapse the moment she walked away, and her friends whispered, waiting for me to chase after her, certain I would beg for another chance. Inside the mansion, where the night had started with music, laughter, and clinking glasses, the atmosphere shifted suddenly. The chandelier lights sparkled, but the joy had dimmed and every eye turned toward us. I remained still, my hands steady, my face calm, and my silence weighed heavier than any words I could have spoken. I didn't plead, I didn't reach for her hand, I didn't beg, and that silence shook everyone more than an outburst ever could. We had once met on a day so ordinary it should have been forgettable, yet it carved itself into my memory. Her smile had felt like sunlight breaking through clouds, her laughter magnetic, her touch like a promise that forever was possible. We walked through seasons together, celebrating triumphs, weathering storms, holding on to dreams that felt unshakable, and the world believed we were inseparable. I believed it too. But betrayal rarely arrives with thunder. It begins quietly, like shadows creeping in at dusk. It starts as little whispers, excuses that sound harmless, late replies that carry no warmth. She drifted slowly, one step at a time, while I held on with both hands, believing that love, if strong enough, could stop someone from walking away. Her friends noticed before I did. Their laughter held something sharp, their smiles something cruel, and I brushed it aside, convincing myself love could blind even the cruelest eyes. But the night of truth came uninvited. She stood in front of me, dressed in elegance, her beauty undeniable, but her eyes colder than winter winds. "It's over," she said, her tone flat, her voice cutting through the air like glass shattering on marble. Behind her, her friends hovered like spectators at a theater, waiting for the scene they thought inevitable. They expected me to fall apart, to cry, to hold her hands and beg her to remember what we had built together. They wanted drama, a display of desperation they could gossip about for years. But I gave them none of it. I stood still, the silence pressing against the walls like a storm no one could see. I looked at her, nodded once, and stepped aside as though my world had not just shifted beneath me. In that moment, the power shifted entirely, not in her favor, not in theirs, but in mine. That silence spoke louder than 1,000 pleas. It said I would not be broken by abandonment. I would not be defined by rejection. I would not be the man they thought I was. Days bled into weeks. She thought my phone would light up her nights, that my voice would tremble with messages of longing, that I would knock on her door with flowers or tears. But instead she was met with nothing but silence. My silence was not weakness. It was the forge where strength is born. I poured my pain into long nights of work, into the quiet discipline of rising before dawn, into sweat dripping from my skin in the gym, into books that opened worlds bigger than heartbreak. I turned every tear unshed into fuel, every word unspoken into determination. Her friends, the same ones who had smirked, now looked confused. They had waited for my downfall, but instead they watched me rise. My silence was a storm they hadn't expected, the kind of storm that rebuilds instead of destroys. And as months passed, she returned, not with love, but with regret painted on her face. Her eyes searched for the man she thought she could break, but she found someone new, someone stronger, someone who had risen from ashes she left behind. My silence had built a wall so high she could no longer climb it. In the end, the truth revealed itself in the simplest of ways. The world believes silence is emptiness, but it is not. Silence is choice. Silence is dignity. Silence is power. Sometimes silence is not the absence of words, but the presence of strength. And in that silence I discovered myself again. I learned that you don't need to beg to prove your worth. You don't need to fight to be remembered. You don't need to plead to be valued. Sometimes the loudest thing you can ever say is nothing at all.